What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, today's episode, we're back to work on my foreclosure house I bought a few years ago. We have quite a few issues we're working through, and today I'm going to show you guys how to fix a bowed out wall. So as you can see right here, I put my level on here, and this thing is rocking really bad. I mean, this is not a small bump out, so I'm going to show you guys how to correct this. We're going to have to cut the wall open, and I'm going to show you the procedure and how to resolve this issue. So without further ado, let's go ahead, take a closer look at what's causing the bulge in the wall.
Okay, so here's the situation on hand right here. I've got a bulge in the wall, and this wall is pretty tall. It goes way up there. Anyways, my staircase is right there. I'm safely supported with some scaffolding right here. So just make sure if you're working on a staircase, safety first. Anyhow, there's a big bulge in the wall. So this bulge actually goes straight to the corner. And I don't know if you can see on the corner right there of how it bulges out. So from my understanding, drywall only bows out in one direction. It doesn't bow out two directions. So if you've got a crooked stud right here, it's gonna follow that path all along the whole board. That's from my understanding. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. Anyways, you can't really see the bulge, with this camera view right here. So let me take a level and show you exactly what's transpiring. Okay, so with my 4-foot level, I put this on the bulge right here. And I mean, just look at the gap between the top and bottom. I mean, you rock this thing. I mean, this is a significant bulge in the wall. And I mean, you can see the dust that actually builds up on top of this bulge. I mean, it is nasty. So I'm still in the process of repairing all the flaws in this foreclosed house, and this bulge in the wall is one of the last items on my list. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to fix a bulge in the wall. And I don't know if you guys have any bulges that are this bad, but I've never seen it this bad. This is just crazy. Okay, so figuring out where to cut first, that's gonna be a tough one to do. So if you look below the wall, I've got actually some nail pops. Actually, I tried to do some drywall patching right there, but anyhow, there's a nail right there. There's another nail right there that to cover the drywall. Didn't sand it too well. There's another pop out. So you can kind of gauge of where the studs are at. So what I'm gonna do is in the middle of this bulge, I'm basically gonna be knocking on this thing. So wherever it feels solid, that's most likely gonna be where that bulge or that crooked stud is actually pushing out on the drywall. And also maybe you might be able to actually push on the drywall to see if there's a void. This, I can push on it and I feel it's not contacting the stud, so I don't think this is the location right here. But if I knock on this location, that feels pretty solid right there. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a hammer and a nail, and I'm gonna basically just knock a hole with the hammer and nail lightly. And if it makes immediate contact with the nail inside a stud, then basically that that's the problem area. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take that approach instead of the knocking approach. So let me go get a hammer and nail and we'll start playing with this wall here. Okay, to start off with, I went ahead and drew a long horizontal line across where the front of the bulge is at, all along to the corner. And then basically my stud sensor, the 9-volt battery is dead, so I went ahead and found one stud and just measured 16 inches on center to the next one, and sure enough, that was pinpoint right there. Anyhow, what I did is basically just took my hammer and nail and knocked into the stud area, and then basically just measured the depth of how deep this nail went in. So you can kind of see that this nail head sticks out pretty good distance right here. But if I come down to about over here, 2 studs down, and I stick the same nail in, I'm still hitting stud, but see that's not as deep right there. Let's work our way down to the corner of the wall, and you see how the nail goes in pretty good distance right there. Okay, so the next game plan, I have to cut the wall open. So I'm gonna make a big rectangle going about 4, maybe 5 inches past the stud on each side. And then I think this line right here is where the level stopped, I guess, rocking, if you want to call it that. So I'm gonna make another line right down here of where the level stops rocking. Okay, so let me go ahead, mark my rectangle with my pencil. We'll cut the wall open, and hopefully this is the culprit that's causing this bulge. Let's go ahead and take care of this. All right, guys, change of plans with the large rectangle cutout. I basically just cut out a small rectangle instead. So I want to investigate what's going on. So as you can see, we got the wall stud right there. But if you look right there, there's a big gap between where the drywall's at and where the stud's at. Okay, so using the tried and true measuring tape, as you can see the gap between the drywall and the stud, there's about 5/8 of an inch right there. That's a significant gap right there. So this right here is not the culprit. Now I've marked on the wall of where the studs are at. I got 5 more locations. So I think what my new strategy is going to be is I'm going to take my level, and wherever I've got the largest gaps at between the top and bottom is probably the culprit. So basically I'm going to have to take this level, hold it steady, measure on the top, measure on the bottom, compare it to what I've got over here and see what I've got. But visually, I think it's probably this stud right here, which is basically stud number 4. Okay, so I'll go ahead, take some measurements on the top between the wall and the level, and then I'll make a small cut, and hopefully we find the culprit. So let's go ahead and take care of this. Okay, so time for an update. Went ahead and made some slits where the studs are at, and I went ahead and stuck the drywall saw inside there and measured the gap from the outside of the drywall to where it touched the stud. So that's 2 inches right there. That's 1 5/8, 1 3/8. This is 2 inch. That's 1 3/4. I still can't find where a stud is actually touching the backside of the drywall. So I'm a little bit baffled here. So, I mean, I feel like I failed you guys, but anyhow, you know, this is just an adventure. You know, it is what it is. I mean, this is home renovation 101. You just never know what you're gonna find. Anyways, I went ahead and marked a large rectangle out, and you know, I'm just gonna full send it. We're gonna cut a large rectangle out. I've got drywall in the basement, so that's what we're gonna do. But before you go ahead and make any cuts on drywall, whether it's a handsaw or electric saw, just go ahead and be cognizant of electrical. So you got a wall switch right there, so you know there's gonna be Romex stapled to the side of the stud. And there's also probably some pipes in the wall. So you just gotta be extra careful when cutting drywall because you never know what's behind it. All right, anyways, let's go ahead and cut this large wall section open and cross our fingers that we find this, because this is getting frustrating. All right, short while later, got the drywall section removed from the wall with the bulge in it. Now the revelation here is quite shocking. I was expecting to find some warped studs, but that's not the case. So let me show you guys what's going on with the studs. Okay, so this cavity right here is the worst one. So if I put my level on the top and bottom sections of the drywall, as you can see, that gap is pretty consistent. And also this cavity right here, this had the largest bulge section. Again, levels on the top and bottom section of the drywall. As you can see, that gap is dead even. And another quick example with the level. As you can see, the backside level has got a dead even space where the stud's at. So my warped wall situation was quite unique, I have to say. Like I said, I was expecting to find some warped studs, but that's not the case. So what was going on is you got this hole right here with this P-trap. And you got another hole that's notched out on the joist, which is a P-trap also. Got a lot of plumbing here. And in this cavity and this cavity, there was heavy lint and dust buildup. So basically vacuumed out as best I could, but I mean, this was like 3 times as worse than what it was. And as you can see right down here, I pulled out this flexible vinyl tube. And as you can see with this notch out in the floor joist, you got this vinyl flex tube. I guess it's like a helical type tube, I guess, but it's got a thin wire, and this stuff is very thin. So what I think happened is the original HVAC contractor ran this from the dryer, which the dryer location is about right here. So what's going on is there was this flex tube that went in the joist all along here towards the back of the house, because I could never figure out why there was a vent on the back of the house and I never knew where it went. Anyhow, this is what's going on. So anyways, why I think the drywall actually bulged out is from all the heat that came from this hole and this hole right here. Now, if you take a closer look at the stud, I see a nail right there for drywall. It skips, there's a little bit of glue right there, and then basically the nailing occurs right there in the joist. So, I mean, you've got a good, 20 inches missing without any drywall nails. So I think if the drywall installers had a nail right here and a nail right here going along the whole wall, I don't think that bulge would occur. Basically, it just broke free from the glue itself and then just caused that bulge with all the heat. Now, regarding the solution for the dryer exhaust vent, I don't know if you can see in that crack right there, but there's an aluminum tube right there, and that's spitting out to the front of the house. I ran the dryer, made sure that vent was opening up, and I heard the dryer running. So I think we're good to go, but I think a previous homeowner discovered the fact that there was an error with the dryer or what was going on, I'm not sure, but they actually resolved it. But according to my neighbor, the initial homeowner of this house lives right down the street, so I'm actually going to knock on the door and maybe get some information from him. Maybe he can give me some information as opposed to this dryer vent, if he fixed it or not, or if another homeowner did that, I'm not sure, but be interesting to see what kind of stories he tells on the ownership of this house. Okay, so given my situation where the dryer heat actually bulged out that wall and not a warped stud, let me show you real quickly of how to mark up a warped stud. So you're gonna go ahead and take your level, and you wanna take like a scrap piece of drywall and somehow attach it to the back of your level. And then where you've got a crooked stud, you wanna brace the level on the top and bottom sections of the drywall, make sure these sections are straight, and then basically hold the level with the drywall piece attached, and then take a pencil and just basically score the side of the stud right here. And essentially what you'll see is a straight pencil mark, and that stud should have like a half moon shape. So you're gonna take an electric planer and basically just plane that stud right there until it's straight against that pencil mark. And then you can go ahead and put the drywall back in position. So again, I apologize guys that this is not a warped stud issue, which is typical, but this is a very unique situation where the dryer heat from this hole and this hole caused that drywall to bulge out. So you'll just never know what you'll find in these older homes. This home was built in 1989, by the way. Now, I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason, and I'm not sure if you can see this trim nail right below this P-trap. Now, I went ahead and renovated the laundry room when I moved into this house, including new flooring and wall base. And if I feel right behind this P-trap, I can feel a finish nail, and I think that finish nail is going into the P-trap, which is not a good thing. So eventually, that finish nail is going to rust out. It's going to cause a massive leak right down here to the bottom plate. So I got to go under there carefully, cut the nail as close as I can to the drywall, get some angled needle nose pliers, and pull that nail out. And then I got to do a patch somehow, because I don't know if you can see, this is a very tight installation with all this plumbing lines and whatnot. So I'm not quite in the clear yet, so I need to go ahead and put a resolution on this P-trap patching, and then I'll be able to go ahead and put some new drywall parts on this wall section. Alrighty guys, well, I apologize. The revelation right here is not a warped stud. I wish I could show you physically, how to repair that, but I think my explanation will help you guys out. But whatever the case, you just never know what you'll find in an older home. Sometimes newer homes have warped studs as well. All right, let me go ahead and fix that P-trap, and then we'll go ahead and rehang some drywall and get this wall all patched up.
took a warped wall repair video. Now the circumstances wasn't what I expected once I opened up this wall cavity. Usually when you have a bulged out wall or crooked wall, it's usually going to be a warped stud. But that wasn't the case in this house. So what happened was the original HVAC contractor who installed the dryer duct along this whole wall right here used the incorrect type of tube. So what happened was it was a thin vinyl tube, it eventually melted, and there was two openings where the P-traps right here, and it was blowing hot air into this wall cavity right here, which caused like a 14-foot long bulge. I've never seen anything like it, but even though this house is 1989, you just never know what you're gonna find. And especially if you have an awful contractor that's building a house that can wreak havoc on your house itself. Anyways, if you guys like these foreclosure house repair update videos, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.